No problem. Enjoy.
I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Laura Treonze. I am the Vice President of Short Sales and Agent Services at Al Philippone Associates. I really have the great honor of working with investors who are looking to create generational wealth through real estate. I'm so excited to have Ida on to talk about how to do that through a self-directed IRA, because it's important that not only we see the benefits of investing in real estate, but we find all of the different ways to make the most of our finances. And again, that idea of creating generational wealth is so important. A little bit of history, I'll just tell you my background is real estate. I bought my first house when I was very young. I was about 23 years old, and it was a two-family. And so from there, I just traveled this wonderful path to now being able to sell real estate and incorporate that passion and belief of real estate investing into my work with my clients. So let's jump into the workshop. And like Ina said, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them along the way. We'll address them toward the end. We want to make sure that we get through both sections of the workshop. So talking about real wealth, what are we going to cover today? We're going to look at real mindset. You know, it starts with mindset. There's lots of misunderstandings, I like to call them, about today's market and about investing, and we're going to address some of those. Then we're going to look at the real benefits, including the benefit of cash flow. You know, there was this sort of bubble in the real estate market where people were dependent on equity, and really what we need to look at for investing purposes is cash flow. Then we're going to look at real criteria. Why is this important? I often joke that I buy houses is not criteria, so it's really important that you understand your goals and you're able to articulate those goals to other people, both investors and to realtors that you work with. And then finally, we'll take a look at real systems. It's important to know that real estate is a numbers game. And so we're going to talk about the systems to achieve the numbers that really get you to your goals. So I like to ask, when we talk about mindset, when is it a good time to buy real estate? You know, there's sort of a myth. Warren Buffett came out this past week and said, now is a great time to buy real estate. And he's absolutely right. It is a great time now. But I want to make it clear that it's always a good time to buy real estate. As long as you have clear criteria and you know your goals, you don't have to worry about timing the market. When we're looking at cash flow being your number one priority, which is what we'll focus on today, it's always a good time to buy real estate. So I don't want anyone to listen to the news or to leave here tonight thinking, I should go out and buy something tomorrow. Yes, there are benefits to doing that, and yet it's really knowing your goals and setting yourself up for financial success in the future. Getting down to the mindset basics, I love this triangle. This comes from the Millionaire Real Estate Investor Workbook by Gary Keller. Really a fantastic book that's the back to the basics on how to invest. And you build your real estate investment business on this triangle. And like I said, you have to start with the mindset. And then you look at buying real estate. And then you look at owning it, and that's talking about your net worth. And then you look at receiving the benefits. And again, that's cash flow and leveraging your investment. And then when you look around the outside of the criteria, you see that the base of investing is really your network. The network is the key to finding great deals. It's the key to getting things done. Building your network is going to be a key, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the webinar. Then we look at criteria, and I mentioned that a little bit. We'll go into more detail. Knowing your criteria so that you can articulate it to other people is very important. And then we come to terms. This is often the forgot about piece of investing. It's so important that you know price does not equal deal. Terms are what make a deal. I often, when I'm sitting in a group, being in Fairfield, Connecticut, in Fairfield County, Connecticut, I'll say, you know, how many of you are interested in a property in Fairfield County for $20,000? And everybody in the room raises their hand because, of course, they want a property at that price. That's amazing. Well, then I'm going to talk to you about it's in a bad part of the city. It needs $120,000 worth of work, and the after-repair value is only $100,000. Now, does anyone want to buy that property? They exist, and so it's really important to know the terms of the deal. Again, that incorporates your criteria, and it will give you the greatest return on your investment. So, real mindset. What prevents you from investing today? I love the acronym FEAR because it's false evidence appearing real. A lot of people have a fear of losing equity, zero appreciation. A lot of people have a fear of the fact that they may find a better deal tomorrow. I have a lot of buyers sort of waiting in the wings for that better deal. There's a fear of being a landlord, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. And there's a fear that you may not know enough. And this workshop and working with an educated realtor who understands investment terms is about helping you take action because you need to get past the fear. Those are all the stories we tell ourselves to keep ourselves safe. And yet when you start to look at the number of people who do not have enough money to retire versus the number of people who are underwater in their mortgage, the first outweighs the second by millions. And nobody's talking about it. And so it's important that we help people get past the fear and get them into the mode of action, and you do that through education. So it's great that all of you are here, and then after the webinar we'll talk about what you can do to take next steps. So now we're going to dive into the real benefits. What are the benefits to real estate versus other investments, especially stocks? I don't know how many of you have been brought up with the notion that, invest in your stocks. This is where your retirement money should go. This is the safe investment. Well, we're going to dive into that, but first let's look at the reality of real estate investing, because there's a lot of news out there. Up until Warren Buffett last week, the news has said, oh, real estate's scary. You don't know what's going to happen to your money. Well, when you look at real estate appreciation during the past 41 years, real estate has appreciated 38 of the 41 years. How many people knew that? I look at this chart and it amazes me because even if you look at the 80s, and I don't know who on the call remembers what the 80s were like, but the 80s interest rates, of course I wouldn't know personally, I've heard that interest rates in the 80s were up to 18%, and yet real estate still appreciated. So as we talk going forward, we're going to talk about real estate appreciating at an average of 5.12%, which throughout history has been the average, and that includes 3 down years. Now remember, individual market areas are going to vary slightly, and yet when you look at nationally, all of the numbers, the appreciation rate for real estate has been on average 5.12%. Now let's look at stocks. Stocks are the place where we're supposed to put our money. I don't know about you guys, but I look at this graph and I'm a little bit nervous. S&P has lost value 13 of the past 41 years. Holy moly. I was completely shocked when I saw this graph. Again, nobody is telling this story. It's really important that you know for long-term investment purposes, real estate is the safest place for you to put your money. So what are some of the benefits of real estate over other investments? I mean, number one is cash flow. And no matter what market you're in, cash flow is the only reason to buy real estate. Again, back during the bubble, everyone was banking on equity buildup because the market was rising so quickly. But cash flow is the reason why you buy true investments. So when you're working with a realtor, you want to make sure that they're talking to you about cash flow on a property. Another benefit is this notion of leverage. I mean, when you think about the ability for us to leverage the majority of a real estate purchase, what other investment can you do that? So do you think you could go and buy Apple stock for $20,000, buy $100,000 worth of Apple stock for $20,000? I don't know anybody who would do it. Now then people always come up, well, you can margin. You absolutely can margin. But when there's a margin call, do you have anything to say about that? No. Real estate is the only place that you can leverage securely for the period of time that you determine, 15 years, 30 years. It's an amazing benefit. Then there's all the tax benefits. I mean, when you start to look at real estate and its stability, the government helps you or does what it can to help you find ways to invest in real estate. You have lenders lend on real estate. Why? Because it's stable. And then you have appreciation. Again, this isn't the goal or the focus when you're looking at your investments, and yet it's one of the added benefits that in the end, during most markets, you will have an average of 5.12% increase in appreciation. And the key right now is affordability. I mean, we have record high affordability, which means that you can increase cash flow. And again, why are we buying? We're buying for cash flow. So now we're going to dive into the real criteria. It's really important that you know what you're investing in, and in order to do that, you need to know why you're investing. So sitting down with an experienced realtor who can help you go through your goals so that you are buying the right investment to meet those goals. I love real estate. I'm passionate about real estate because no matter what your goal is, there's a way to backfill it with real estate. It's absolutely amazing. So you want to make sure that you clearly articulate your goals. You pick a niche. You have an investment strategy. You know the type of property. Is it single family? Is it multifamily? Is it apartment complexes? You're looking at property condition. Have a clear understanding of your bandwidth. Are you looking for turnkey? Do you mind something that has a little bit of rehab? Or are you looking for something that's a full gut? Location. This is often undervalued by beginner investors. I can't tell you how many beginner investors I talk to who say, I buy anywhere there's a deal. Well, I just gave you the example of the property in Fairfield County for $20,000. Would you really buy anywhere if it's a deal? Knowing the location and having an understanding will help you understand that market and the investment returns, the potential investment returns. I know a lot of people who invest out of state, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're educated to the benefits of that area and you know the area well, because I know too many people who've lost lots of money trying to get in low and not understanding the area where they're investing. Property specifications, you know, how many bedrooms, how many baths, again, the type of property. Really get specific. You're picking your niche. Price range. You're going to look at price range because you want to be able to determine your return on investment. It's important you have a price range. And then your exit strategy. We're going to talk about begin with the end in mind in a few minutes, but having your exit strategy, and in this market, having multiple exit strategies is going to be key for you because you don't want to be stuck in a property. And then look at your target market. If you're looking at investment properties with cash flow, have an understanding of who your ideal client is. Who is your ideal renter? Make sure you know the area and you buy in an area that's going to attract a renter that you want to deal with. There are some people who will say, I prefer not to have Section 8. Well, by law, we have to allow all Section 8 tenants, and yet there are people who believe that that's not what they want. I'll tell you, go by your instincts and your guts and work with a realtor who can help protect you from a liability standpoint, but also get you in an area where you're comfortable. Now we're going to get into the real criteria and knowing the numbers. Again, this is something that a lot of investors don't think about. Even the experienced investors aren't running their numbers the way that they should on each property. And I know investors who have, anywhere from 10 to 20 doors, 10 to 20 units, and aren't looking every year at their gross operating income, their net operating income, their cap rate as compared to other properties in the area. These are all really important things for you to think about. So let's go through them rather quickly. When you look at your net operating income, that's your gross operating income minus your expenses. A cap rate, for anyone who's unfamiliar, is your net operating income divided by your purchase price. A lot of people in commercial will use a cap rate when you're looking at smaller investment properties, especially in Lower Fairfield County. The cap rate's a little bit more difficult to go by, so again, having a realtor who understands your needs and your goals will help you able to decipher all of these things. The debt service ratio is your net operating income divided by your mortgage payment. This is really important when you're getting a mortgage. Your cash flow, obviously, what everybody wants to see and why we invest, is simply the amount of money you get at the end of each month or year after expenses, including your debt service. So that's including your mortgage. And then when you look at your cash-on-cash return, that's your cash flow divided by your initial investment. Individually, these numbers are not as helpful as they are when you look at the big picture. Again, I use cap rate a lot because a lot of people try to base their investments on, I want a 12 cap, I want a 13 cap. And it's an important number to include among others, and included among those others are your goals. So if you're in an area where there's an average of an 8% cap rate and this property has a 12%, okay, great, that's something to look at. Again, if you're looking at a smaller multifamily, the cap rates aren't going to be that high. So keep those things in mind, but know what you're looking for, know what your goals are. When we look at real systems, it starts to get exciting because this is where the numbers start to really make sense. If you looked at investing $25,000 in a $100,000 property, and again, that $25,000 is 25% down, and we're going to work through this 5x5 model. You look at year 5 equity, and remember, we don't even invest for equity, we invest for cash flow. But when you look at equity, $52,000 is your investment. You can re-leverage into a $210,000 property because at 5.12%, it's grown. When you look at year 10, your equity is $110,000, which you can then re-leverage into a $443,000 property. Once you get up to year 20, you're looking at $490,000, and this is just equity. This is not cash flow. This is based on averages. You can re-leverage into a $1.9 million property. And then year 30, you're looking at $2 million in equity. What other investment can get you these types of returns? It's amazing. And this does not include cash flow. I will say that over and over. When we look at it compared to other investments, and we're going to use mutual funds here, you can see where investing the same $25,000 in a mutual fund would give you, based on mutual fund averages, a return in the same time frame of $436,000. Again, going back to that investment in real estate, you're looking at $2 million in equity. That ability to leverage is so key to growing your net worth and creating generational wealth. So what's next? Let's look at the systems and the numbers game. A lot of people don't consider that real estate is a numbers game, and you need to make sure that you don't get impatient. A lot of beginner investors want to find the deal. They want to find the deal. Well, here's on average the numbers it takes to buy one property. You can consider 30 on paper. You go out and look at 15. You make offers on 5, and you buy 1. And again, those are national averages for investors. So what I hate to see happen is an investor who, again, is ready to take action, which is fantastic, and yet they want to make the deal work. They force the numbers to work. So let's take a property that needs a little bit of rehab, and they say, well, I'm going to do the work myself. Oh, I don't care. When we're running the numbers, we're going to run the numbers as if you have to hire someone to do it, because when we take the after-repair value and subtract the cost of repairs, we want to make sure that you're not overpaying for the property. Really, really important, especially in this market. There's lots of bank-owned properties. There's lots of short sales. You want to make sure that you're not overpaying for property because you're undervaluing your own time. And you never know, especially in New England, where there's old houses, what you're going to find once you start diving in. There's lots of people who are capable of doing the rehab, and then once they dive in, it's a lot more than they anticipated. So be smart about how you run the numbers. Make sure you overestimate how much you plan to put in terms of repairs. And then we're going to look at the network. I talked about this when we were looking at that terrific triangle, and this being the base of everything for you. And finding that realtor. There's lots of realtors out there who, well-intentioned, want to just help clients. And again, they're well-intentioned. And yet to find a realtor who understands investing, understands the lingo, understands the importance of running numbers conservatively, really, I cannot emphasize enough working with the right realtor to help you evaluate properties. That's where their value comes in. They're going to be able to tell you the market area, and again, they're going to be able to help you run the numbers in the most conservative way. You're going to look for an attorney. Know that a traditional real estate attorney may not be the same as your investment attorney. And if you're working with an experienced realtor, they're going to have someone on their team who can help you. You want to make sure your attorney understands landlord laws. There's lots of legislation coming out. Actually, I'm on a grassroots committee where we're learning about really the new laws they're trying to enforce for landlords. And together we have to stand and fight this type of legislation. And you want an attorney who understands those laws and the legislation. You want an accountant. I always recommend someone who is either a real estate accountant or an investor themselves, because they do a lot of the research because they're interested in the topic. Or if they aren't themselves, they have someone on their team. I work with a fantastic accountant who annually we get together and really talk about our goals, and so that they can help advise us from a tax perspective as to whether or not we're doing the right thing. When you're looking at a lender, many people will have their own traditional lender. You also want someone who can offer you the access to private funding. This becomes really important for people who are looking to rehab properties. Short-term private funding is very important. An appraiser, again, having a realtor with an appraiser, on their team is important. Your inspector, an inspector who understands investment properties. A lot of inspectors will go through properties and either be over-alarmist or under-alarmist, and you want someone who kind of falls in the middle. When you're looking at abandoned properties, there's a ton of work to be done, and an inspector can be easily overwhelmed by that. And you want to make sure that you have someone who understands, again, what your goals are, that you are an investor. And you want to be able to negotiate price if you're doing multiple properties and you're giving him lots of jobs per year. An insurance rep. Not enough people talk about having the right insurance person on their side. You want to find someone who, again, understands the drawbacks and benefits of tenants and making sure that you have enough coverage. An umbrella policy is vital for anyone who has 5 or more properties. I say it's vital for everyone, but again, having someone on your team that are in your network that can help you go through that and make sure that you are covered. A contractor, my goodness. You want a contractor who knows, especially if you're rehabbing, that you don't want to be the best house in the neighborhood. So there's a difference between when you're redoing your own property and it's very specific to your liking than when you're looking at an investment property. And you want to make sure that the contractor in your network understands the difference. So if you're doing a project in an area that's, lower middle class because it's a rental, you don't need granite countertops. And again, making sure that person in your network isn't someone who's going to try to upsell you. A handyman, having this person on tap is important as well. There's lots of landlords who go running for their tenants, and it's so much easier when you have a handyman who can just run over there and do some quick fixes. There are state laws in Connecticut for the amount of work a handyman can do without being licensed. And again, an experienced realtor is going to be able to help you make sure that you're hiring licensed professionals. Property manager, I say if you aren't one, hire one. A lot of people fear that notion of being a landlord. So if you don't want to be a landlord, but you want the benefits of cash flow and generational wealth, hire a property manager. Cleaning service, vital to have on board. Finding someone, again, who's going to be able to go in there. People would rather have an old clean house than a dirty new one. Landscaper, even for your rentals, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So, again, having these people in your network. And then, obviously, we have Ida. You're a self-directed IRA representative, and I can't wait to get into her program so that everybody on the call can understand the benefits of using your self-directed IRA to invest in real estate. And you need someone who specializes in this, and so, we're really fortunate to have her on board and in our team. And then finally, it's about taking action. What will you do today that others won't? And I love this quote, I will do today what others won't, so I can do forever what others can. And I actually have this on my fridge because it's so important to take action. And there's lots of ways after this call you can take action. Whether it's contacting me for a one-on-one investment. I do a complete investment questionnaire. We go through your goals. It's an hour and a half to 2 hours because we're really going to dive into how does this fit into your financial portfolio. It could be, talking with Ida about how you can use your self-directed IRA to take the next step. It could be calling a mortgage person to talk about ways to finance an investment property. Just promise yourself that after this call, you're going to write down one action that you're committed to taking before the end of the week. Because if you let more than a week go by, chances are you're not going to do anything. So it's not a matter of should you invest. It's really a matter of when is it the right time for you to do it. And obviously there's lots of benefits to doing it now. Just make sure you're working with the right people. Okay, Ida, that's my piece of it.
Honestly, she's going to make me blush if she keeps going on like that. That was actually a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much, Laura, for your tidbit. For my portion of this presentation, we're going to do a screen share, and I will get that started right here. I'm going to... Here we go. Thank you for bearing with me at this moment while I sort of flex out a little bit. So self-directed retirement plans. After that wonderful presentation from Laura, you hopefully came out of that with at least the merits of real estate investment and using real estate investment to diversify your financial portfolio, whether it's within a retirement plan or just your finances in life. Being a real estate investor usually takes that little extra bit of savvy and that little bit of control just so that you can have a handle on your finances. So self-directed retirement plans, for those that are not familiar, is an alternative means in which to utilize your retirement portfolio so that it's not stuck in those stocks and bonds and mutual funds that, just like Laura's slides had indicated, are sort of unreliable and outside of your control. The easiest way to start is what is Next Generation Trust Services. We are an administrator. We are not your financial planner. We're not your insurance reps. We're never going to tell you what you can, or we're never going to tell you what you should or should not do. That is already up to you. That's up to your counsel. That's up to the team that you have set up to make the most out of your investment decisions. What we do, we are simple record keepers and administrators, and we facilitate the purchase of non-traditional assets such as real estate, mortgages, loans, etc. We facilitate that within the retirement plan, so that way you have the most control. We are completely neutral and unbiased. We do not endorse any sort of investment. We never check your investments for legitimacy or provide you with any financial, legal, or investment advice. What we're here to do is to make sure that everything is clean as far as IRS investments go, and to help you along your way to financial freedom. So, covering part of that is what I just covered there, what we don't do, because it's a shorter list. We're not a fiduciary. And the types of plans that you can have as far as self-directed IRAs is a common misconception is that a real estate IRA and the IRA that you have at, say, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Ameritrade, aren't the same thing, when in reality they actually are. For a quick rundown of the types of retirement plans that are available to self-direct, you have your traditional IRA for the tax-deferred investor. This is under the old, and I think at this point outdated, assumption that you will be at a lower income bracket when you retire than you will be when you're working. So you're able to put in funds, and any sort of income that those funds gain is tax-deferred. Another option as far as retirement plans go is the Roth IRA, which has the word tax-free in it, which is one of my favorites, honestly. You put in funds into this retirement plan provided that you're eligible to do so. You do have to be under a certain income limit to do that. And any earnings are tax-free, provided that they are removed after retirement age, which according to the IRS is 59 and a half, and also I should actually say, and also that the IRA has been open and funded for a minimum of 5 years. So even if that's $1 in it, if you are eligible to open a Roth, I always encourage people to at least put $1 in it today so that if you end up using it later, you're able to do so without any sort of tricky caveats. The next IRA is a SEP IRA, which is for self-employed individuals. You have basically the same type of plan here as the traditional IRA. Any earnings are tax-deferred. It's just under the assumption that since you're not under the umbrella of a 401k, you have to provide yourself with a retirement plan. So the SEP IRA entitles you to contribute more funds, whereas the traditional IRA and Roth IRA are limited to a $5,000 contribution per year. The SEP IRA is a $50,000 contribution for 2012, or 25% of your salary. So basically, 25% of the income, and you have to report it, 25% of your income up to $50,000 can be contributed to a SEP IRA. So it allows those people, much like real estate investors like yourself, who have this as a primary source of income, you're considered self-employed. You can fluff up this IRA so that you have a bigger capital, at least to start with, if you haven't started on your retirement savings yet at all. A simple IRA is typically for small businesses. It is a more complicated plan. It's sort of the hybrid between your standard 401k and an IRA. It's not commonly used anymore, but you'll see it for small businesses such as a dentist's office. It offers you a little bit of a diversification as far as contributions, so you can put in a little bit more money, but there's usually not a reason to use a simple IRA that can't be accomplished with a SEP or a 401k plan, which we're going to get to next here. But again, it's always between you and your tax advisor what's best for you and your income and your particular situation. Next on the list, you have employer plans or qualified plans, which includes your 401k plans, your profit-sharing plans, IndyKs, solo Ks, Ketos. They're all fancy names for pretty much the same thing. You can utilize these or a portion of these, especially if you have one with a former employer that you no longer work with, and either roll them into an IRA or open a self-directed qualified plan for which to use for these purposes. As far as specialty plans go, we have two plans that are not considered retirement plans by technical definition. There's the Coverdell ESA, which is available for saving for a child's education, in addition to, say, your state's 529 plan, which allows you to save tax-advantaged for tuition. Your Coverdell ESA is significantly more broad, and it's a federal plan, which means you can self-direct it, and you can have it in addition to that 529. Education expenses are not limited to tuition alone. You can use that for whatever qualified education expenses is referred to by the IRS, and that can include school uniforms, books, supplies, other expenses that go along with it, not just limited to college, but also to high schools and private schools and middle schools and things of that nature. So it's actually a pretty great plan. You can only contribute $2,000 a year per child, but you can do it for any child. And you can set it up to have those funds self-direct while the child's growing up and not yet using them. The health savings account is the only account that I know that you can deduct the funds that are going in and are tax-free earnings coming out, provided that they're being used for qualified medical expenses. They used to be a very broad term, and where you can even consider a vitamin qualified health expense, but as of the past 2 years or so, the IRS has sort of tightened up the meaning of that. This is for high deductible health insurance plans. It needs to specifically be categorized as so, and is usually best for those who don't see themselves using their medical expenses a lot, and so that way they can keep on paying things, whatever they have out of pocket, and attributing it to the HSA. Kind of like a flex spending account or an FSA. But you can self-direct all these different plans, and so that's what I like to call sort of the grit or the technical jargon of the presentation. Part of, when it comes to investing with your IRA, you have to have a couple of things like, for example, a little bit of capital. This goes for all IRAs, traditional IRAs, as well as non-alternative investments such as your stock bonds and mutual funds. When you're funding a plan, you want to either fund it with one of these four ways. You have contributions, which is when you're starting up your first IRA or a whole new IRA or whatever it is that you would like to do. You can take your funds out of your pocket and put it in, ideally tax advantage depending on the plan. If you already have an IRA somewhere else, you can transfer it to another IRA, your self-directed IRA with us, presumably. And that's like and like accounts, so a Roth to a Roth, traditional to a traditional. A rollover is when funds go from an unlike account to an unlike account. So say, for example, you do have that terminated 401k. You worked at this one place for so many years, you don't work there anymore, but you do have funds that are just hanging around waiting for you to roll them into something or to work with them in some way. You can roll them over, which is the only way to get funds from 401k to a traditional IRA. So you want to make sure that the 401k is either just your standard 401k or if it's a Roth component that it's going into a Roth. Now the conversion is the most exciting one, I think. As of 2011, they lifted the income level cap as far as who can convert their traditional IRAs into the tax-free Roth IRA. That does mean that any amount that has not yet been taxed needs to have all the taxes paid on that, which they will, of course, once you do your tax return for the year. The conversion, they'll go after you for that. But the conversion, any sort of funds, once they're in the Roth IRA, you've paid your taxes on whatever it is that you've converted, any earnings that that would get at that point will be tax-free according to those two rules that I said before. So you have a couple of different options as far as moving retirement funds from account to account. So what can you do now that we're actually at the point where we have an IRA, we opened an IRA with Next Generation Trust, and we moved some funds into it, either one of those four ways. The most exciting part is the actual investment. The shorter list for investment regulations, as far as IRAs go, is what you can't do. What you can't do is actually a short list of 3 rules standing. You cannot invest in life insurance contracts. You cannot invest in collectibles, such as fine art, wine, gold, not any gold, but like special collectible gold like Spanish galleons from 1529. Those would be considered collectible, but standard issue gold as far as bullion or coins, you can invest in that also. But life insurance contracts and collectibles are the only 2 investment types that you cannot invest in. That leaves everything else under the sun. That leaves all your real estate deals, whether it's short sales, you're doing turnkey properties, whether you're mortgaging, providing a mortgage on or seller financing. You can do virtually anything that you can think of. The other hard rule standing is disqualified persons. You can't transact or involve your IRA with anyone who's considered a disqualified person as per IRS regulations. The code, if you're ready for a really dry read, is IRS code 4975. So basically the people that you can't work with is yourself personally, which is the IRA holder, your spouse, any ascendants, descendants, or their spouses, as well as fiduciaries of the account, existing and current business partners, as well as anybody else who provides service to the IRA specifically. So what does that mean? That means that you cannot move a property that you currently have into your retirement plan. You can't have your daughter rent out the house that your IRA owns. You can't sell to your that's actually not true, sorry. You can't sell to your grandfather an asset held within your retirement plan. So any sort of direct, you can't provide a loan, any sort of direct transaction between the disqualified person and your retirement plan is considered under IRS regulations self-dealing and is prohibited. So what happens when you break one of these rules? The IRS, once they find out, and so it may be that they never find out that your daughter's been living in the property. She's had a roommate and she signed all the rent checks. We never knew better. She moved out and everything was hunky-dory. In the event that they do find out, though, that will nullify the tax advantage status of your plan. So the entirety of the IRA, even though maybe 50% of it was invested in this asset, the entirety of that IRA would be distributed to you as of the date the prohibition had occurred, and you would be charged whatever taxes you owe as of that year. So even if they don't find out until 15 years later, you'll owe 15 years of excise penalties. You'll lose the entire tax advantage status of your IRA, and usually we see sometimes paying 150% of the value to 200% of the value. Nobody wants that. So we try to make it as clear as possible. You can do a million things except for these 3. So on a more positive note, what can you do? You can invest in real estate. You can invest in mortgage notes, tax-free certificates. You can invest in companies that ultimately purchase real estate or ultimately purchase whatever type of investment you're interested in. Limited partnerships, offshore hedge funds. You can even purchase options and private stock. The sky is your limit at this point. You have so many different options. I've seen things like people investing in rare earths such as uranium and things of that nature. I've seen trees in Costa Rica purchased for the rights to the wood that when they mature in 15 years, the teak and the mahogany profits from going off to all those furniture companies or whoever it is, maybe building the cabinets in the new house that you have. She's going to reap the profits of that. I've seen a lot of unique investments, but 85% or so, I would imagine, just from what I see, has the ultimate purchase in real estate, because real estate really is a fantastic market. We started, Next Generation Trust Services has been around for probably a while now. Under this particular name, we've been here for, this is going to be our second year under Next Generation Trust Services. We were under a larger franchise that we broke away from in 2010, and we've seen all kinds of investments. Before that, this particular office has been open for at least 9 years now. So we've seen people invest in real estate, rehab properties. We've seen people flip properties. We have actually a very big business that's very popular, and even has a TV show about it that flips properties constantly, because that's what they do on their day-to-day. They also have taken control of that within their retirement plan. So the control really is all yours. You have people who purchase a piece of real estate, renovate it, sell it, provide seller finances, and then make money on a note. You have people who have involved other investors and have invested in, say, a tenancy in common or a REIT. There's so many different options. Anything that you can invest in legally at this time, you can invest in with your IRA. This includes international real estate. We have a client that has a beautiful apartment in their retirement plan in Tel Aviv. Gorgeous place. TV station in Belgium, also within a retirement plan. I have a client who has a piece of real estate, and from another self-directed IRA from a completely different person holds the mortgage. So another exciting point on that front is that you can absolutely leverage your retirement plan should you choose to do so. How would you go about it? So now you're interested. I mean, we think you're interested just a little bit. Hopefully that's why you're still here with us. How do we actually purchase a piece of real estate within a retirement plan? This list is assuming that you've already opened your account with us, because the actual first step you want to do is open a self-directed retirement plan and move a bit of money in there. Even if it's just enough for a good safe deposit, you want to be able to act quickly when it comes to making that offer if you can. So you've opened your account, you have at least maybe $1,000 or so, a couple grand in there at the minimum, so you can go ahead and make that deposit. You're going to do everything that you ordinarily do when you're making an investment decision as far as real estate is concerned. Everything that Laura talked about, you're going to make sure you have your team of advisors. You're going to check consider your 30 properties, etc. You're going to you're going to do everything like you normally do. The extra step you want to take is whoever it is that you're working with, have them be aware that you're purchasing it within a retirement plan. So that way, everybody is on board with a learning curve. For your first property within your retirement plan, I would suggest not a deal that has to be done really quickly, just to give you some time to get to know the procedure and the process. So you pick out your property, 123 Main Street. It's beautiful, stunning. It's got the cash flow you need, not too much rehab work. We're going with that one. You found that out, so you're ready to negotiate a purchase contract. Your IRA is a separate and distinct entity from you personally. You have John Smith as an individual with his Social Security number, and you have John Smith's IRA, a completely separate and distinct entity from John Smith personally. Because your IRA is purchasing the property, your IRA can be the only name listed on the contract if it's the 100% owner. The naming convention, at least with our company, goes Next Generation TS for the benefit of John Smith, IRA number 123. You're going to submit that document to our office, usually fax or email, and hopefully you've been talking to one of the delightful people in our office to sort of get the wheels turning as far as your investment goes. You're going to submit that contract, and you're going to submit what's called our bi-direction letter, which is our formal instruction letter that says, my name is John Smith, I have account 123, I want to buy 123 Main Street, and I'm putting down a down payment of $5,000. Can you fund Thomas and Thomas law firm with this? We're going to make sure that the information on our bi-direction letter matches that of the contract, that the contract doesn't say something scary like John Smith personally guarantees this property, or the money is going to Mary Smith, John Smith's wife, who is considered a disqualified person. We'll execute the contract, do the transaction on our end, and submit the deposit according to the instructions you provide us because you direct your investments. And you've already made your investment. It's important to note that we won't do any due diligence. So the due diligence that you typically will do when it comes to a real estate investment, you must do as part of your IRA's investment. It is your responsibility to ensure your financial stability. So we want to make sure that you're investing in something that you're comfortable with. You're still doing your home inspection, you're still doing your title search, you're still making sure that the roof doesn't cave in on the left every time it rains. This is all still something you want to look into. Once you have that process going, if you're looking to do a second deposit or there's additional closing docs, maybe a HUD statement, whatever it may be, you're going to go through the same process of submitting it to us. We'll mark them all read and approved to show that you've gone through this, you've read it, you are approving us to sign it so that we can execute it on behalf of your retirement plan, and you officially own a property. Any payments as far as any sort of expense that a property incurs has to come out of your retirement plan. Any sort of income that a property generates, such as rental income, that goes back into your retirement plan. And that's how you make it grow without using stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Using the same techniques that you are familiar with your day-to-day finances, and using that to secure your tomorrow. Of course, ideally keeping this one short, if you have additional questions or you have specific investment scenarios that you'd like to go through, our staff will be more than happy to help you through anything. We always recommend that you give us a call. The second you even think of making an investment, give us a call so that way we can walk you through how to do it, what things you need to look out for, and give us as much detail as possible. We love being overloaded with detail. So in this, I'm going to go back to Laura's slides here. If you have, I think I lost it. Here we go. And here we are. If you have any questions here, I see we have some, you can chat them in. I have one from Dan, who is interested if someone has 401k money from a former employer. Basically, can you move funds from a current employer's 401k into an IRA, a self-directed IRA? The answer to that, Dan, is that it depends on your plan documents. A current 401k can set up their documents so that funds can't leave the plan onto different administration. And so if your plan documents say that they're required to keep them at that location, you can't roll it over. Once you actually leave that job and it's terminated, that's when you're going to be able to move them into a retirement plan. We don't see a lot of cases where there's a clause in plan documents that allow for a portion to be self-directed or allow for what's called an in-service rollover. But we definitely endorse everybody asking their plan administrator because you just never know. As far as mortgages, you can leverage your IRA. You can have a mortgage. You don't have to just fund it 100%. You can borrow against it. You have to have what's called a non-recourse loan. Because you're considered disqualified against your IRA, you can't personally guarantee a mortgage. So a non-recourse loan specifically indicates that only the property would be used as collateral in case of default on payment. Usually that would indicate that you have to put down a higher percentage down. So instead of just 20% down, you're looking at 40% down or something along those lines. There's a couple of different resources. If you were interested, shoot me an email and I can shoot you the names of a couple of people that I know do non-recourse lending. But you can also have private loans. It's just you can't personally guarantee your IRA's property is all. Joe asks, how safe are funds held with us between investments? Any cash held within your account is FDIC insured. So the custodial bank that we use and depository bank is a local bank called Union Center National Bank. And the funds are FDIC insured, actually beyond $250,000 because of the way we have the account structured. So your funds we're only administrators, so we don't actually physically hold your funds. We use a bank to do so. Ruby asks, can I buy a property with my self-directed IRA and myself half and half? That's a bit of a 201 question, but the answer is yes, you can. You would have to set percentages of ownership in advance. It doesn't matter what the percentage is, whether you use 50-50 or 90-10 or whatever it is. You have to decide on those percentages from the get-go, and they're set in stone. And everything needs to be divided by those percentages. So any sort of expense has to be divided, the deposit, the closing costs, everything needs to be done through those percentages. That is something that we do cover in our 201 seminars also. So if you're interested in pursuing partnering with a disqualified person, I would encourage you to give us a call to sign up for our next seminar. And Ruby also, because Ruby likes 201 questions, Ruby would also like to know if the self-directed IRA can be a member of an LLC, and that's absolutely true. Yes, it can. Usually the context surrounding what LLC that is, and your IRA cannot be a member of your LLC, but it can be a member of an LLC. So I would definitely encourage, if that's the situation that you're looking at, to contact us so we can go over that scenario specifically. Let's see. Any other questions? Does anybody have questions for Laura?
I won't take that personally.
I do have one other question that has to do with somebody can set up an LLC with the IRA holder being the managing member and the IRA being a member of the LLC where the IRA holder is the managing member. That is a IRS gray area. There's no yes or no answer to that, but it's not a scenario that we encourage by any means. If you're interested in doing something like that, I would definitely say to give the office a call so we can discuss it further, but you definitely want to speak to an ERISA attorney. That's ERISA. Those are attorneys that are familiar with retirement plans, different from your real estate attorney and bankruptcy attorneys, etc. But they're familiar with retirement plan law. It's sort of this hazy area that's not really referred to in IRS code, but could potentially be prohibited. Our fee structure, then we'd like to know our fee structure. Our fee structure is actually listed on our website. We don't charge a lot of fees. It's all on you have two different options when it comes to our fee structure. You have a per asset rate and a market value rate. I would be more than happy to actually send you our fee schedule, and anybody who's interested is also posted on our website so you can take a look, and anybody in our office would be happy to go through it with you individually. Joe would like to know income and expenses on an income property must flow through the trust. Is that as simple as managing a checking account? That's what we do for you. when you have an expense on the property, you would submit to us a payment authorization letter, and you can set it so that it's reoccurring or a one-time only, whatever it is, if there's association dues, if you have taxes, if you have to pay a contractor, things of that nature, you would contact us and give us the payee information, and we would cut a check on behalf of your IRA, and any sort of income checks need to come to our office and made payable to your IRA. No money can flow in or out of your pocket. There would be never a scenario where it'd be okay for you to pay for an expense personally and be reimbursed by the IRA, or just take care of a service on behalf of the IRA. I hope that answered your question. Did that answer your question? Okay, good. Is there any other questions? I got some good questions today. Of course, if anybody has any questions, like when their head's hitting the pillow or anything along those lines, or tomorrow morning, please feel free to contact either myself or Laura. You'll get a follow-up email that has our contact information, and the recording for this webinar will also be made available on our website. I hope to hear from most of you soon. One quick question here from Ben is if you're required to cash out at 70 and a half or at any age. You are for a traditional IRA or a SEP IRA. The 70 and a half rule is for required minimum distribution. So you don't have to cash out the whole thing, but there's a convoluted little chart at the back of IRS publication 590 that indicates, according to your life expectancy and total income, etc., how much you have to take out for the year. So if you are interested in investing in something illiquid like a piece of real estate and you are past retirement age at like 70 and a half, you definitely want to take into consideration that you're going to have to liquidate a portion or have a liquid portion of the account available for distribution as per IRS rules. With a Roth IRA, that stipulation does not exist. You don't ever have to take funds out of the retirement plan. You can keep them in there forever if you so choose. Anything else?
I have a question that I get a lot from investors, so I thought I would throw it out at you. What is the seasoning time when people are rolling over into a self-directed IRA to about approximately when they can make a purchase?
It depends. It's sort of a variable answer, which is unfortunate. But you have a couple of different things at play. If you open up an account with us, the only hard rule standing is an IRS rescission period, which you have 7 calendar days after you open an IRA anywhere to take it back, to say, never mind, I didn't want to do that. So we can't do an investment within the 7 calendar days of your retirement plan, but if you already have your account funded after that first week, usually you're ready to go. The problem that most people come across is they can't get funding that fast, which is not something in our control because it's coming from wherever it is it's coming from, whether it's from a former 401k or if it's coming from another IRA. We usually, for your first deal, allot yourself some time. Give yourself 4 to 6 weeks so that way you can get started, you can move some funds over, you can sort of get a feel for the process. Not all real estate deals are 1, 2, 3, go. You allot yourself some time so that you can sort of learn as you're going, because it's new for everybody except for me, honestly. So we've seen deals happen as quick as 2 weeks since the account's been open, but we've also seen deals drag along 60 days just because everybody's ducks weren't in a row, and there is paperwork that you need to complete, and you have a middleman, and having a middleman takes a little bit longer. But what we're trying to do is protect that tax advantage status of your retirement plan so that way you can enjoy it later.
Great. I hope that was helpful for people on the call.
So if there's nothing else, if anybody has any more questions, feel free to shoot us an email. Like I said, We'll have this up on the website in a couple of days or so, by the end of the week, most certainly. And I hope to see you all in our next event. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thanks, Ida.